Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Real View podcast. I am your host, Allison Wiley. Joining me today, our special guest is Terry LeClaire. He is Senior Vice President at First Team Real Estate and Luxury Portfolio International. He was the broker owner of an award-winning real estate brokerage, Prudential LeClaire and Associates, which was acquired, as well as the CEO/COO and founder of Realty Sites Plus, a real estate SaaS model software platform that was launched in 2009. Realty Sites Plus, a TLC Innovations company, specialized in realtor software, social media, and marketing solutions, and was sold in 2012. Terry has also worked with companies to increase revenue, profits, and margins by offering business consulting and coaching services. Terry was also a very successful realtor, completing 100 plus closed transactions for 13 years in a row. That was with no licensed assistants or agents. So he is an expert. He is a boss. He is going to share with us a little bit of his mindset and ways that us as agents can really use mindset and approach the year 2026 in a great place. So Terry, welcome onto the show. We're so happy to have you.
Well, thank you, Allison. It's nice to be here. And I wish you would have set the bar a little lower there, but I got a big bar to jump over now.
You are going to do amazing. This is why we have you on. You're a rock star, and we're excited to be hearing from you and a little bit about kind of these four internal forces, what they mean, how we can harness them, really to be great in our business, but also in our personal life. But before we get started on today's topic, I'd like to hear a little bit more about you. I know I ran through your bio real quickly, but I'd like to hear a little bit about how you got started in real estate, what you do now, and what's led you to where you are today.
Wow, that's a long story, and I'll try and give you the cliff notes. So what you don't know and what you didn't mention is I'm actually Canadian. I am now living in Southern California. I've been here for 11 years. So my Prudential office was in Canada. I started in real estate in Canada 30 years ago. So it's been 30 years now. I can't believe it.
Wow.
And I got into real estate. I borrowed $20,000. I had two young children. And I said, I'm either going to make it or break it. And I just put my head down and really went hard in the marketing side of things and doing open houses. And I was very fortunate to sell 54 houses my first year. And I kind of never looked back, to be honest with you. 20 years into the business, I had founded two software technology companies in the real estate space. I had that successful Prudential office, and I was a very successful realtor. And I went through a divorce like many people do. And I decided to get out of Dodge and restart my life in California, where there is no snow. I know what it's like in Ohio. You guys deal with a lot of snow like I did in Canada, just outside of Toronto. And I wanted to get away from the snow and the cold. And here I am in Southern California. And when I moved here, I was the executive vice president of First Team Real Estate. So I ran the company for a number of years. And now I'm kind of doing my thing. And I'm trying to motivate and inspire our agents to be better, to get better, and doing everything I can to do that. I did have a little hiatus away from this company over the last 10 years. 3 years ago, I left the company to start a private equity / third technology company. I had some partners that didn't work out and decided to get out of that business and come back to First Team. And here I am again for my second bout at First Team.
I love that. So you're back with us, back in the game, and back helping agents and realtors. And I think that's, the really cool thing. And I've said this, so many times on this podcast. If you think about it, realtors are all in competition with one another, right? But we're also so willing to share resources, share advice, share what's worked well for us, what hasn't worked well for us. And that's really the cool thing, about this industry. So I appreciate, your willingness to bring along new agents and agents that have been in the game for a while and help them kind of level up their business. Especially, it's a great time of year to do it. We're heading into a brand new year, so much of this is mindset. And that's one of the things that you have talked about, and really honing in on these four internal forces, which I think are amazing. And you're going to run through them with us here in a little bit, but just talk to us kind of a little bit about the importance of mindset, how you've used it to really harness, your business, grow your business, and how you've seen agents, use it in really great ways.
Well, share with me the four that you're talking about because we didn't really prep this. So give me the four because I do a number of different training topics. So
Yeah,
tell me the
yeah.
four that you're talking about.
Yeah, so the four internal forces: belief, desire, faith, and
Okay,
persistence, and honing
gotcha.
those, I think. And you have some really cool, perspectives on, what they mean to you, what they mean to real estate, and how you can apply those into growing your business. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping we get into today.
Let's talk about belief because I think everything stems from having a strong belief system in yourself. And that's hard to do sometimes because, like most realtors, we're probably a little self conscious, especially coming into the business, right? We start to question, are we good enough? Are we capable? Do we know enough? Are we smart enough? Are we going to get tongue tied when we sit at the listing presentation, the buyer consultation? So, having a belief system in ourselves is very difficult in this business. We have this impersonation and anxiety to think a little bit about it. So, structuring a strong belief system, in my opinion, all starts from having one thing that's very important, and that is confidence. Not cockiness, but confidence. And when I'm talking to agents, I always talk about how to build confidence. And confidence is really quite simple to build when you really look at the basic premise of it. You build your confidence by practicing and honing your skills, and then there's one other thing that you need to do in this business, and that is knowing your stats, right? So practice and hone your skills and know your stats, and that will gain confidence. Once you have that confidence, it will give you that structure of belief in yourself, right? So you know that you can get into any circumstance and you can actually talk your way through it. You can answer the questions. You're going to provide the right information. And I'll give you just a simple example, right? It's amazing to me, and I have an agent that I have started to coach recently who, after 30 years of being in the business, never had a listing presentation. And that made me like almost fall out of my chair. It's like, how the heck have you been so? And she's been a Hall of Fame award winner. But like many agents that might be watching or listening to this podcast today, they've been in the business 20, 30 years and they've hit a rut. They've gone backwards and they're going, why am I going backwards? It's because the industry is getting stronger. Agents are getting better. People are getting really good at doing presentations. People are really good at understanding what the consumer wants. And some of these people that have been a little complacent, unfortunately, because they've been in the business like me for 30 years and it was a little easier to build your business, they again become complacent. So understanding your listing presentation, every page of the listing presentation, if you again, to gain confidence, if you practice and hone that, if you know your dialogue on every single page of your listing presentation or every slide that you click through, right? Understanding what the consumer is going to say, leading them down a path where you know the questions they're going to ask, the objections they're going to have, the hand raising that they're going to do. If you can answer those questions and feel very confident in knowing that you have the answers, you're going to be able to walk in any listing presentation, not be nervous, and you're going to be able just to flow through it and you're going to be able to nail it. Right? So practicing and honing your skills. 3 years ago, we never had to do a buyer consultation, right? Buyers came easy. We met them at open houses. They like me, I like them. We said, okay, let me show you houses. And they go, okay, great. You show me houses and let's do this. Now I have to say, hey, I like you, you like me, and I'm going to show you houses. But by the way, you got to pay me $20,000 to help you buy a house, or 50,000 in the case of California, or 100,000. They look at you like, what? I got to pay you? And that's a different conversation, right? Yeah. So you have to be very confident going into that conversation that you're going to be able to have that strong belief system to hold your ground on your commission and be able to get them to sign a BRBC or whatever the contract is in your association, where they sign that buyer commitment, right?
Yep.
So again, belief all stems from being confident, and gaining confidence is all about practicing and honing your skills and knowing your stats. And I will say, on the knowing your stats side of things, and I did this training with a large group the other day, and I asked, and I do this a lot in my trainings, I always ask, what's the number one question we get asked after we're introduced to a new person and they find out that we're a realtor? What's that number one question that we get asked, Allison?
How's the market?
How's the market, right? I asked that a million times, maybe not a million, but I've asked it probably 50,000 times literally in 30 years. And I always get the same answer. How's the market? And it's amazing how many realtors don't know the answer to that question. Oh, the market's good. The market's, oh, it's okay. It's, and they stumble with that. And I'm like, okay, hey, I always have an answer for that, right? I would always go and look at my stats and I would know, depending on the area that I'm in or the conversation that, if I'm going to a networking event in Irvine, California here, I'm going to know the stats going to that Irvine, networking event. I'm going to know the stats for that market because when it comes up, I'm going to be able to rhyme off just a few little stats, let them know that I am a professional. They can trust my guidance and I know what I'm doing, right? That gives me a strong belief system. I did this the other day with this group. I said, hey, ask ChatGPT. Tell them who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, and give you 5 different answers to that question. And it spit out these 5 amazing answers to how's the market. And I said, just remember one of them. All you have to do is just remember one of those answers. And you're going to go into a conversation and you make sure that the answer that you're giving also has an open-ended question on the end of the answer. What's prompting you to ask that question? Are you interested in investing or whatever that open-ended question is at the end? Again, knowing your stats to answer that question is really important. Again, to help you build confidence, to give you that belief mechanism that that you can walk into anything and you can actually nail it. And here's the thing with your belief system. And this is why it's so important to have this as your base foundation. This is the number one pillar, in my opinion, because we get rejection a lot, right, Allison? In this business, we're rejected all the time. And if you have a strong belief mechanism or system, those rejections don't come as hard, right? Yeah. And one thing I'm going to tell your audience right now, they are never, ever rejecting you as a person, unless you're an idiot, right? If you're an idiot, then you deserve to be rejected. But in most cases, most realtors go into conversations, go into relationships, not being an idiot. They're going in to really try and do their job and give great advice. So they're never rejecting you. Remember this, folks. They're never rejecting you as a person. They're rejecting your message, or they're rejecting your timing, or they're rejecting your offer. One of those 3 things: your message, your timing, or your offer. So that just means following up, right? If it's a timing thing, keep following up. If it's a message thing, if you realize you go into 10 listing appointments and you don't get one of them, or you get 2 or 3 out of 10, you're doing something wrong. Even if you got 2 or 3, you're doing something wrong. You should be getting 70 or 80% of your listing presentations, right? Yeah. So your messaging is wrong. Change your messaging. It's not you that's not getting the listing presentation, not Terry LeClaire, the person. It's Terry LeClaire, the messenger, who's getting it wrong, who needs to hone and practice his messaging to get that to where people will accept it and want to do business with it. So that's the belief system.
Yeah. Definitely. Absolutely. And the cool thing about that and about all these, different, belief systems and those internal forces is that these are all skills you can learn. Like if you're listening to this, you say, I don't have that now, or like, oh my gosh, no, I don't know my stats. Like or I'm not very confident. These are all things that you can improve upon. And I think that's what we're really hoping to tell you today is like, hey, it's okay if you don't have it now. Terry's here to show us how we can learn it and how we can get better and how we can make this really a part of our business. And so we're feeling good about it because so much of it is internal, right? Like we have to feel good and strong in ourselves that, we're walking into any room and we are feeling confident. We are putting out there the best version of ourselves, because if we don't believe it, then how do we expect other people to believe it? And I think consumers are so smart right now and they're going to be able to feel and sense that.
100%. And I will tell you, a lot of agents that I've talked to, and myself included, I am terrible at remembering things, right? So when I'm doing presentations and speeches and so on, I almost always have to have a PowerPoint presentation. Like I'm sweating right now doing this without no PowerPoint presentation, right? So I have to have a trigger, and that trigger reminds me, right? So our listing presentation, those slides or those pages are triggers. And people say, well, I can't remember it. Well, here's the key to remembering something, right? Whether you're doing a speech, whether you're doing a presentation, the key to remembering is you first have to visualize what you are going to try and remember, right? So you're actually looking at the slide, you're visualizing it, and you're kind of, you're obviously just looking at it and you're visualizing it. Then you internalize it. So you're reading it to yourself, internalizing it, and you're trying to kind of make sense of it. If it's too complicated, you can't internalize it. So you have to simplify it to internalize it for you potentially, right? So visualize, internalize, Then you have to verbalize to be able to memorize, right? The key to this is if you're not verbalizing it, you will not memorize it. And I'll give you an example. Allison, I don't know if you're an active realtor or not. Are you an active realtor?
No.
Okay. So you've never experienced this, but I can tell you probably many realtors have experienced this. And that is they have a big listing appointment tomorrow. They go to bed tonight and they lay in bed, and I'm this person 100 times over. I lay in bed and I go, okay, I got this speech tomorrow. I got this presentation I'm doing, and I'm rolling it through my head and I'm thinking about it, and it just rolls really smoothly. My listing presentation is going so smoothly in my head. And then I get to the table, and if I haven't actually verbalized it out loud, now I'm verbalizing it for the first time, it never flows right. It never comes out right. So you have to visualize, then internalize and simplify, and then you have to verbalize, and it will help you memorize.
I love that.
Do not miss the verbalize. That's why role play, and I know everybody out there I hate role play. And I have to do it so often with my agents because I have to kind of get them going on it. But I absolutely hate role play. But it's such a necessary evil because when you verbalize something, you're realizing, oh, that didn't come out right. I got to say it in a different way. Or that objection is not going to be able to be handled with the way I'm verbalizing it. Or the tonality, right? We're playing a part. So you also have to have that tonality and that theatrics about it a little bit, right? You have to know when to raise your hands and when to sit back and when to lower and raise your voice and calm down and speed up. So those things will help you if you verbalize it. So if you don't have a verbalizing partner, if you don't have a role play partner, spouse, whatever, say it to your dog, say it to a mirror, sit in front of a mirror and go through your presentation, right? But you have to say it out loud, in my opinion, to really help you memorize it. So
I think so too. And that practice makes perfect. That saying is so cliche, but it's so true. The more you do it, the more you're speaking it out there, the more you're familiarizing yourself with it, the better you're going to be when that time comes and you have to, be prepared for that presentation. Absolutely.
Right.
So desire is kind of the why, the thing that keeps you going, that fuel, that fire, that internal, force that's really pushing you forward and keeping you going on those really tough days. Talk to us a little bit about desire, how it works in real estate, and how we can apply it, in our careers every day.
Yeah. Desire comes in many facets in this business. There are people that come into this business because they desire freedom. They want freedom from their schedule. They come into this business desiring a lot of money. They want to make a lot of money. They come in and they desire to be prominent and to kind of create this kind of image, and to elevate their self-worth. Those are all very valuable desires, but I will tell you, none of it will happen unless you have the desire to serve. Right? It all boils down to the desire to serve. You have to give to receive, right? So sometimes you're going to walk into a listing presentation and you're going to have to give them a lot of information. You're going to have to share your story with them, and you're going to have to give them maybe some advice that they don't want to hear because you're not there to tell them what they want to hear. You're there to tell them what they need to hear. And sometimes you have to walk away from a situation. And that means you're giving of your time and you're giving of your knowledge, but you're actually not going to be rewarded for that. But at the end of the day, you're going to be rewarded. I'm a true believer in the universe and how the universe prevails. And I think that if you have a deep desire to provide valuable service, provide information, provide honesty, then you're going to actually win this game, right? So you have to first have a desire to give before you receive. And then all those other desires will fall into place, right? We have to, and I know sometimes it's very difficult in this business because it's such a cash draining business to get into the business, and the time frame before, in Ohio, it's probably different than in California, but your first deal in California could take you 6, 8, 12 months, right? Because of the number of transactions we do here are not as great as maybe in a smaller market with lower pricing. So there's no bread and butter type of churn in this business with new agents. So it takes a little longer. So that desire for money, it's got to be kind of set aside if you can, and you again have to have a desire to serve.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Got to be bigger than yourself. I think that's really what'll keep you going. You can always make more money. There's always more deals to be had, but what's really going to keep you going is knowing you're helping other people. It's knowing that you're making families and individuals' dreams come true. And I think that, when we think with that perspective, I think that is really, at the core of what we do. And that's going to keep you going through those really tough days when maybe you're like, I've made all the money. I don't need any more money. That's going to keep you going and really keeping that at the forefront of your mind is what we should all be thinking about and why we all got into the business, right? We want to help others and make their dreams come true. So absolutely, totally agree. Faith.
Before we go off that, let me just add one more thing because I think this is really important. And this is what a lot of people don't think about. And this is where I kind of recalibrate my agents that I'm working with because, they can have the desire to, again, for success and prominence and so on and money and all this kind of stuff. But the one desire that they should all have, and especially if you are a father or a mother, right? Mm-hmm. Being a mother in this business is unbelievable. For all the ladies out there that are mothers, you guys have the hardest job on the planet to manage a real estate career, and motherhood is amazing. But also being a father is very difficult in this business because you want to be able to put in the time. But the one thing I always try to recalibrate my agents on is your desire to show your children or your family or your mentees, people that look up to you, how hard you work and the things that you do and the way that you carry yourself with class and elegance and the work ethic. It's your children are sitting in the back seat listening to these stupid real estate conversations daily, right? Like a broken record, but they are watching and listening to everything that you say and do. And you can either set a great example for them. Not that you want them to get into real estate, but you want to set a great example as to here's the work ethic, here's the perseverance that I'm showing. This is the dedication that I'm showing. This is the kindness that I'm showing. This is the patience that I'm showing people. They're learning and watching from that. So you need to have a desire to provide that kind of mentorship to the people that are around you. And that doesn't just mean your children. That means also your friends, your family, people that are watching. People that are watching are going to also potentially be people that are going to refer you. So always watch your P's and Q's, be kind. I can't believe how many agents don't pick up their phone. I had a conversation. I picked up the phone because part of my job is recruiting agents. I picked up the phone the other day to talk to an agent. They had no idea who I am. Hi, this is Terry LeClaire. Oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, what do you want? I'm like, they have no idea if I'm a buyer or seller. I'm like, oh, this conversation isn't going very well. We don't need to carry this on. Thank you very much. Have a great day. And I hung up. It's like, how can an agent act like that? And if they're acting like that if they're acting like that on the phone, they're probably acting like that in front of other people as well. Not a good role model, right? So be a good role model, be a good mentor, and be a good person, and that will help you succeed.
I love that. No, I'm glad you added that on there because it's so true. And you want to leave a legacy, right? When you think about those motivating factors, like that's such a huge part of it is how you're going to be remembered. Leaving your career and your business off better than when you came into it. I know that's a common saying. We hear about that too. So absolutely. I love it. Leaving that legacy and setting a good example for others. So important. Okay. The final two we have are faith and persistence, and they're a little bit different. I love how you describe faith, that it's often misunderstood, not wishful thinking, but confidence in the process, even when the results haven't yet materialized. So I think this is a really great way to think about faith in the sense of like doing something without the proof that that it's already happened. So talk to us a little bit about faith, how it relates to our real estate industry, and how that top producers really are anchored by this idea of faith.
Yeah. So faith can obviously be described in different ways. Obviously, it could be a religious faith or, a universal faith or whatever. And whatever way you choose to determine faith, that's really your decision. But I look at faith as kind of, a universal thing where if I have belief and desire in place and I'm really represented well there and I feel really confident with those, then I think that my faith is going to be much stronger. And having faith that, again, whether it be God, the universe, Buddha, whoever you bow to or you believe in, that's fine. Just having an understanding that if you do the right things the right way, things will work out. And the challenging thing is there are times where you keep thinking you're getting kicked down, you keep failing, or you feel like you're failing, and you don't hit those numbers, or you're not succeeding, or not making the paychecks that you want. if you continue to do the right things for the right length of time, you are going to win this game. I can almost guarantee it. But it doesn't come without hard work, right? That's one thing that people in this business forget sometimes, right? This isn't just we're going out to look at houses. I love houses. I love design. No, this is about being a professional consultant to your clients, right?
Yes.
So understanding your listing presentation, having a great buyer consultation, understanding your local stats in your farm, in your city, in your area, whatever that might be, understanding what's going on in the overall market in the entire country, having a good understanding of our business, reading trade publications, right? This is part of being a true professional. So if you have all those things in place, I have a very strong faith because I know that I'm very good at what I do. I know that I can deliver, and I know if I'm asked to deliver, I will deliver. So I have this faith, and I do know that when I do hit a stumbling block or I do hit a failure or what is perceived as a failure, I spin it and I make that my learning experience, right? This is a learning experience, not a failure. So every time I feel like I've tripped or I've stumbled, that is not a loss. That is not a failure. It's more of a learning experience for me. And having faith that this too shall pass, which we've all heard, right? Having faith in that, I think is extremely important. But I'm going to also preface it with this. If you are not working, if you are not dedicated, if you're not doing the things that you need to do, you shouldn't have faith. You should be nervous. You should be questioning whether things are going to turn around or not, because they probably won't. What really blows my mind is this. And I ask agents this sometimes, right? That I have a hard time kind of getting in the groove of learning. You have to be a perpetual learner in this business, in my opinion, right?
Yes.
I'm 30 years in, and I have to be better than my agent. So I'm perpetually learning, all the time. And I can give you examples of today that things that I've been doing today to continue that progress.
Yeah.
But I think that an agent who, let's say, for example, I'm looking out in my front office, my front lobby, and I have my office administrator here, who's my right hand. She's amazing, right? And if I was to put somebody in that seat tomorrow, that person would expect to be trained, and they would be expecting to do at least 40 hours of hardcore training to learn that position, right? But agents come into the business, and we throw all these tools and technology and all these things at them, listing presentations, CRMs, all these different pieces of technology, but they will not take the time to go and watch videos, to do the training, to dedicate themselves to learn this. Where if they were to go to any other job, they would spend 40, 60, 100 hours in actually learning the job. You know how hard it is for me to get agents to watch 5 hours of CRM videos to learn how to run the most important tool in their business, which is their CRM? It's like pulling teeth. But if you're an agent out there, understand that you don't have to do 5 hours in one day. You can do half an hour a day for 30 days on different topics. And by the end of 30, 60, 90 days, you will be, I wouldn't say an expert, but you'll know your CRM. You'll know your listing presentation. You just dedicate the time to learning. Where in this business, for some reason, agents don't want to take that time to learn. Right. And spinning it all the way back, if you take that time to learn and you have the deep knowledge of all these little things that you're doing, you're going to have faith in yourself, and you're going to know that you're going to come through any adversities that you're faced with. Right.
Yep.
It's that simple.
I love that. And I think that leads into the final, one we were going to discuss today is that persistence, right? That goes into that being wanting to learn, never giving up, pushing, showing up every day. I think those who do that are always going to be the ones who end up on top. And persistence is so important. That's what keeps you going when you might be in that position where I want to quit, I want to give up, things aren't going my way, but refusing to let that stop you, keep going, keep showing up. I think, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on it too, but I think that is so key when we think about what makes a really good agent is that persistence and just having that inner drive to keep you going.
Yeah. Persistence is interesting because there are lots of people that naturally are bred with this persistence, right? They're not quitters. They fight through everything. I'm one of those people. I'm very fortunate that I have that gene where I just do not stop. I do not give up. I'm an ex-hockey player, an ex-actually goalie. So, I'm an athlete. I truly believe in that competition, and I will not give up. Unless I'm dead, I'm not going to give up. Some people don't have that, unfortunately. But what will help you be more persistent if you don't have that persistence gene, if you want to call it that, is accountability partners, right? Or accountability, self-accountability. Now, self-accountability is very, very hard for some people. Again, for me, it's not. For other people out there, it might not be, but for some people, it's very hard to be self-accountable. But one of the things that I'm doing, last week, I had a sales meeting on Tuesday, and we talked about our business plan, right? And of course, this is the time of the year where we should be doing business planning. Yeah. Why is business planning so important? Well, it's a roadmap. And I don't do traditional business plans. I do what I call OSTs, objective strategies and tactics. So if you should maybe look that up if you're interested in looking at that. It's kind of a different format of a business plan. But regardless, having a business plan or OST, objective strategies and tactics plan, those will help you not only map out what you want to do for 2026, but if you share it with your manager, if you share it with your partner, if you share it with an accountability partner, that will hold you accountable, and that will help you persevere and be persistent through those tough times, right? And what you need to do is understand and be humble, right? This is the key to persistence, is being humble enough to be able to go, hey, things are looking tough. I can't fight through this. I need to talk to somebody. I need somebody to give me a pat on the butt, raise me up. Sometimes we needed our mom or our dad to do that, right? When we were kids, right? Come on, Johnny, you can do this. You're good. I coached a lot of sports, all my kids' sports I coached, right? And there was nothing that I loved more than getting down on one knee, putting my arm around their neck and talking to them in their ear and watching their face go from a frown to a smile. And then they run out, right? Or they skate out on the ice or whatever they do. And they're just full of it. They're ready to go. That's what sometimes we need to kind of help us get through. So don't be afraid to be humble and ask for help. Ask for somebody to help raise you. Find that person that, will raise you, that will pat you on the butt, give you a strong, coaching to get out there and continue to fight. Every challenge that you are faced with will again fade away at some point, right? If you just persist, if you just push through, there is a point where it's all going to come together and it's all going to make sense and it's all going to work itself out. The best book and my favorite book of all time is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read it, please read it. It's an amazing book. But that does talk about persistence. And there are lots of great authors that have written amazing books and lectures on persistence as well. So that's kind of my thought on persistence.
No, I love it. You got to keep going, keep pushing forward. Amazing conversation. 4 traits. They're already inside of you, just learning how to hone them, learning how to activate them, learning how to strengthen them. If you're like, I don't have any of these, I need to get better. That's why we're here today. You got it and you can keep going. So Terry, I want to thank you so much for joining me today, for sharing a little bit more about yourself and your world and all this great information. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime, Allison. And I've got some other topics we can talk about maybe another time.
I would love that. And to all our listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back with you next week. Thanks. Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.